Open your fridge right now. There's probably meat in there. Maybe chicken, maybe beef. You bought it without thinking. It took you less time to get it than it takes to brush your teeth. But for the vast majority of human history, your ancestors didn't just eat differently from you. They ate things that would put a modern human in a hospital within days. And the most disturbing part? Their diet built the brain you're using right now. To understand what your ancestors actually ate, you have to go back roughly 2 million years. Not to a campfire. Not to a cave. To a carcass on the open African savanna, baking under a sun so intense it would blister your skin in minutes. And your ancestor, small, weaponless, and slower than almost everything around them, is crouching beside it. Not because they killed it. Because something else did. And they got there first. This is where the story starts. Not with hunting. With scavenging. And the first thing your ancestor reached for wasn't the meat. It was the bone. Here is what nobody tells you about your ancestors' diet. The most nutritionally valuable part of any large animal isn't the muscle. It's what's inside the bone. Bone marrow. A dense, fat-rich substance so calorie-concentrated that a single femur from a large animal contains more usable energy than an entire day of foraging for plants. Your ancestors weren't cracking bones out of desperation. They were cracking them because they understood, instinctively and precisely, that the inside was worth more than the outside. Stone tools found at sites in Ethiopia dating back 3.4 million years show deliberate, repeated impact marks on large animal bones. Not cutting marks from removing meat. Percussion marks. Specifically designed to fracture bone and extract what was inside. That is not scavenging. That is a targeted nutritional strategy older than our own species. But bone marrow was just the beginning. Because roughly 2 million years ago, something happened to the human brain that has never happened to any other organ in the history of life on Earth. It tripled in size. In evolutionary terms, that is not gradual. That is an explosion. And explosions need fuel. The leading scientific explanation isn't language. It isn't fire. It isn't social complexity. It's fat. Specifically, the long-chain fatty acids found in one source above all others. Brain tissue. Your ancestors weren't just eating animals. The archaeological and anthropological evidence strongly suggests they were eating the one part of those animals that modern humans find most disturbing. And they were doing it deliberately, consistently, and across multiple continents, for hundreds of thousands of years. Let that sink in. The nutrients locked inside brain tissue, DHA, arachidonic acid, the precise fatty acids required for neural development, are not found in any plant in meaningful quantities. They are not found in muscle meat in significant amounts. They exist in concentrated form in exactly two places: marine animals and the brains of large land mammals. And the archaeological record across Africa, Europe, and Asia shows the same pattern everywhere. Skulls cracked open. Brain cavities deliberately accessed. Not randomly. Not occasionally. Systematically. Now here is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. Because it wasn't just the brain. Your ancestors ate organ meat the way you eat a main course. Liver first, always. Not because it tasted best. Because every experienced hunter across every culture on Earth that archaeology has studied understood the same thing without ever sharing a word. Fresh liver is so dense in vitamin A, vitamin B12, iron, and folate that eating it immediately after a kill was the nutritional equivalent of taking a full course of modern supplements in a single sitting. The Inuit, the Hadza of Tanzania, the San Bushmen of the Kalahari, cultures separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, all developed the same practice independently. Kill the animal. Eat the liver raw, immediately, on the spot. Not as ritual. As precision nutrition. Raw. That word is where most modern humans stop reading. But here is what the biology actually shows. Raw organ meat from a freshly killed animal contains active enzymes, intact fat-soluble vitamins, and heat-sensitive nutrients that are partially or completely destroyed by cooking. Your ancestors weren't eating raw meat because they hadn't discovered fire. Many of them had fire. They were eating certain organs raw because somewhere across generations of observation and accumulated knowledge, they had worked out that cooked liver was less effective than fresh liver. Without laboratories. Without nutritional science. Without writing anything down. But the part of your ancestors' diet that would most alarm a modern doctor isn't the raw organ meat. It isn't the bone marrow. It is the fat. Dietary fat was not something your ancestors tolerated. It was something they hunted. Specifically and obsessively. Ethnographic studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups show a consistent pattern. When a large animal is killed, the fattiest parts are consumed first and consumed entirely. The lean muscle meat, the part that fills every package in your grocery store, was often the last priority. Sometimes it was left behind entirely. In some documented cases, it was fed to the dogs. What your ancestors craved, selected for, and built their entire nutritional strategy around was the thing modern nutrition spent 50 years telling you to avoid. Saturated animal fat, in quantities that would send a modern cardiologist into a quiet panic. Here is what the science actually shows. The original case against saturated fat was built on a study from the 1950s by a researcher named Ancel Keys. He had data from 22 countries. He published data from 6. The 6 that supported his hypothesis. The 16 that didn't were quietly removed. That single decision shaped nutrition policy, dietary guidelines, and the contents of your grocery store for the next 70 years. Your low-fat yogurt, your lean chicken breast, your heart-healthy whole grains. All of it built on a foundation that has been quietly unraveling for 2 decades as researchers go back and look at what was left out. Your ancestors ate none of it. No grains for the vast majority of human history. No dairy. No refined anything. Seasonal fruit when it was available. Tubers when meat was scarce. And meat, fat, and organs when they could get them, which was as often as possible, in as large quantities as possible, with the fattiest, most nutrient-dense parts treated as the prize. And then, roughly 10,000 years ago, everything changed. Agriculture arrived. And with it, for the first time in 2 million years of human history, grain became the foundation of the human diet. Not by choice. By necessity. Farming could feed more people per acre than hunting. And more people meant more competition, more settlement, more civilization. The shift was not optional. It was structural. But the human body had not been consulted. Our digestive systems, our insulin responses, our gut microbiomes had been shaped by 2 million years of eating almost no carbohydrates at all. And now, almost overnight in evolutionary terms, carbohydrates were 70% of everything going in. The archaeological record of what happened next is not ambiguous. At sites across the Near East and Europe, the transition from hunter-gatherer to agricultural populations shows the same pattern everywhere. Skeletal height drops by an average of 5 inches within a few generations. Tooth decay, almost completely absent in hunter-gatherer remains, becomes nearly universal. Bone density decreases. Evidence of iron deficiency anemia, virtually unknown in pre-agricultural populations, appears suddenly and spreads. The first farmers were shorter, sicker, and dying younger than the hunter-gatherers they replaced. Not because farming was a failure. Because the human body was running on the wrong fuel. Go back to your fridge. The meat sitting on that shelf is a pale, processed shadow of what your ancestors hunted. Grain-fed, low-fat, muscle meat only, everything that made animal food nutritionally extraordinary has been removed, replaced, or never existed in the first place. Your body is still running the same hardware your ancestors built on marrow and organ meat and fat on the African savanna 2 million years ago. The software has been updated 1,000 times. The hardware hasn't changed at all. The cravings you feel for fat, for rich food, for meat, the ones that every diet plan tells you to suppress and overcome, are not weaknesses. They are instructions. 2 million years old, written into your biology by every ancestor who cracked a bone in the right way and lived long enough to pass the knowledge on. You didn't inherit bad instincts. You inherited a body built for a diet that no longer exists. Like this video if it permanently changed the way you think about something you eat every single day.